Hello, how are you doing, and welcome back to the channel. So Italy lose to Wales in the Six Nations, a big bottom of the Six Nations clash in Rome, and it's Wales that come out on the better side of it. I've just finished watching the game. This is going to be all about my original thoughts, a step in the right direction for Wales, but in my opinion it was a massive opportunity missed for the Italians. They played some good stuff in moments, but boy will they be frustrated when they watch this game back. Do subscribe to the channel and like the video if you're able to, and also drop a comment down below. What did you make of this game? Is this something that Wales can really build upon, or is it more about the Italian mistakes? Let me know what you think in the comments. All right, let's get into it. So Italy 17, Wales 29, but really it was a game that in terms of the scoreboard, Wales controlled it throughout really. They had a 19-point lead at half-time. It was 22-3 to Wales at half-time, and even though Italy scored at the beginning of the second half and also threatened to mount a comeback late on in the game, I still felt that Wales were pretty comfortable throughout. I'm going to get on to Italy fairly shortly because I actually think there's almost more to say about the Italians in my view after this game, but I'd like to try and start with the victors. Wales have had an absolutely awful start to this Six Nations. They've had all sorts going on off the field. They've been absolutely abject on the pitch. So let's give them the credit they deserve after getting their first win, the first win of the second Warren Gatland era. And I guess the first thing to point out, really, the first note I wrote down for Wales was Rhys Webb. I questioned his inclusion when he was named in the starting squad. Again, it seemed like a player who hadn't started a Six Nations game for, I think it was 6 years, hadn't started at all for Wales for 3 or 4 years, 34 years of age. Is he the future? Shouldn't they be building towards the future now? But actually, despite the muddled selection that I think Warren Gatland still has, I still think he's really trying to work out what his best team is. This was a selection that he got absolutely right, because Rhys Webb, particularly in the first half, was outstanding in terms of the pace he gave the game, the way he controlled it, the little kick, kind of chip box kick almost, wasn't it, over the top for Dyer's try, which Italy dealt with absolutely terribly. But he was just always present, Rhys Webb. He was very, very good. I think I'm right in saying he might have got man of the match. He'd have been up there anyway for the choice of that, and he warranted that selection. And actually going for a half-back pairing who play their club rugby together, who've been in good form in their club rugby as well, worked well for Warren Gatland on that occasion. So I kind of hold my hands up there and say that I probably got that one wrong. I think I got my prediction for this game wrong as well. I said that Italy would win because they've just simply been playing the better rugby. I'm going to circle back to that because I still think you could make the case that there were moments in the game where Italy played some really good stuff. Their attack looked quite good, but overall, I'll get onto them, but geez, they made a huge amount of errors. Elsewhere for Wales as well, I thought tactically they were really smart, particularly in the opening half of the game. They almost reminded me of a rugby league team at some of those attacking phases in the first part of that first half, where they'd have a ruck in the Italian territory and they'd pick and go, or it would be one pop to a man coming on at pace, and they just did that over and over and over and over. They just kept getting themselves over the gain line. It wasn't expansive, it wasn't pretty, but it built momentum, it built pressure, it got them into Italian territory, and I thought it was pretty smart really from Wales just to put Italy under pressure in that way. And then the rest of the time, of course, when they had the ball in their own half, they kicked it away. They played that territorial game as we probably expected them to do really. They were also a lot better in the red zone, Wales. Part of a feature of their opening 3 rounds in the Six Nations in those games they played was actually they did get themselves into threatening positions, but they weren't able to capitalise. I think this was the opposite case, particularly in that first half. When they got into opposition 22, they were able to score the tries, and that immediately put Italy under pressure. So they started games much better than they have done in those other games, and they were able to score from open play as well, rather than an intercept or a pushover driving maul. So that was a change as well. But I say that they started the game a lot better. I think we can flip that round in moving on to Italy. It leads us into the Italians quite nicely because, again, Italy have not started a game too well. In their other matches, they've always been having to chase the game, and that was the case again here, and they didn't seem like they were able to deal with it. They had a really, really poor start. Italy, they went down, 10-0 pretty early on in the game inside the opening 10 minutes, and then they were having to chase it. And the reason they went behind, really, I think, is probably a combination of 2 different things. First of all, they were ill-disciplined. They gave up possession and field position to Wales, and Wales were able to make the most of it. And also just their execution, their lack of accuracy. I thought the opening 25 to 30 minutes from an Italian perspective was a little bit embarrassing for them, because they would have been so disappointed with some of the sloppy penalties they gave away, some of the knock-ons and dropping the ball, and just they didn't look to be at the races. And I wonder why that is. I wonder whether it's the pressure of this game got to Italy, because they went toe-to-toe with Ireland and France at home in the games we've seen so far. They really pressurised England at moments in the game at Twickenham, but this was coming in against the Welsh side at home, where Italy were the favourites, and Italy are so rarely the favourites in matches they play in, particularly in the Six Nations against teams that they come up against. I know they'll be favourites when they play Samoa or Georgia, teams like that. It's rare that they play a team like Wales and they're favourites, and to me they look like a side who just could not deal with that. And I don't know exactly why that was, but they got off to the worst possible start. They were coughing up ball, they couldn't get anything moving, and they allowed Wales to build a lead. And after that, Italy were chasing the game, and they just weren't able to get themselves back in front. So I do wonder whether the whole favourites tag played on them. The other part of this, and I hope this doesn't come across as being too harsh, but you look at that Italian team, and yes, they've been improving. That's unquestionable. We've seen them get better. You've seen that from some of their defeats this Six Nations. But you perhaps still look at some of their players and you think, is this team, do they have the personnel yet to quite kick on in the way we probably want them to kick on? We want them to kick on and see them winning games every single Six Nations. Are our expectations too high? Or am I just being reactionary to what was a poor performance and ultimately a poor defeat? I don't know the answer to that question exactly, but I look at some of the options they have in there, some of the players available to them, and as I say, I'm not, maybe it's the personnel partly. They've got some brilliant players, but do they have the squad overall to be able to consistently compete with some of the best nations in the world? Maybe not, I'm not sure. But let me get back to what I said. They still had moments where, if you asked me who looked like the team who had spent more time together, who looked better in terms of their attacking phase for real periods of the game, I would say Italy, and that's not to take anything away from Wales. Wales deserved to win. They got the victory. Good on them. As I've said already, I was really impressed in certain ways that Wales went about the game. They did what they needed to do. They were ruthless. But just in terms of attacking shape, in terms of looking threatening with ball in hand, particularly in that second half for Italy, where they were able to break through. In fact, they did it in the first half a little bit as well, and then the last pass went missing. Italy rushed it. They didn't have the composure to finish off their chances. I think you could make the case that, in a sense, Italy played the better rugby at times in terms of the side that looked more cohesive. So I think they just messed this up. I think composure, as I just said, was a big part of this. I was so frustrated watching it, and this isn't an anti-Welsh thing as an Englishman at all. It was more just, I want Italy to deliver. I want them to become that team that can compete with the best nations on a more consistent basis. And they had opportunities in this game. They were at home against a poor Welsh side, and they just messed it up terribly, I felt. Their discipline was all over the place. The knock-ons, the Brex try that should have been a try in the first half where he knocked it on over the line is a great example. They just lost all composure in that moment. And it's so frustrating for Italy because we all want them to be better. And this was an opportunity for them to make have another victory, to beat Wales for the second Six Nations in the row, to back up their victory over Australia they got in the autumn. As it is now, and maybe they'll be able to spring a surprise next week, Italy, but you look at it and it looks like it'll be another winless championship. It looks like it'll be another wooden spoon. And I want more from them. That's all it is. I hope that's not too harsh. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. But I do think part of this story, as much as Wales were good, is also about how Italy, I think, messed it up. Let me know what you think in the comments about that. Am I being harsh? Hopefully I've given enough credit to the Welsh, because I did think they were very, very good. But ultimately the taste left in my mouth is frustration in Italy. Let me know what you think of the game in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.